Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting for May 1st, 2012. Please remember to shut, mute, or vibrate your cell phones as not to disturb the meeting. Thank you. Mrs. Winslow, roll call.
Mr. Chair, all four selectmen are present, as well as the interim town administrator, Mr. Foster, and the financial analyst, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Announcements?
The announcements. I don't believe I have any. Mrs. Begley?
No.
Mr. Slavin?
No.
Mr. Foster? Mr. Holmes? Mr. White?
The coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry. On Thursday morning at 9 a.m. in the Multi-Service Center, I will be the guest for the coffee hour, and we'll be talking about living frugally. Thank you, Mr. White.
I think the only other obvious announcement is town meeting continues tonight.
Town meeting continues tonight, 7 p.m. in the Wareham High School Auditorium.
And I did have a chance to look at the sign.
Okay.
Did you see it today for Jacob? The
Yes.
sign. It's there is a bike run in the morning, and I think they're due to return back there around 1 o'clock. Anything else? Foster. Okay. Next up, number 4.
Mr. Chair, we have the surplus equipment.
Bill, are you here for that?
We have a memo to Mr. Andrews, the former town administrator, from Chief Richard Stanley, dated April 2nd, 2012, which states, "It is my request to have the following equipment declared as surplus property. It is all very old computer equipment with no value to other town departments. Once declared surplus by the Board of Selectmen, I will have the equipment picked up at no charge. We have removed and destroyed all hard drives." This letter comes with 2 attachments, which lists a variety of equipment that is to be declared surplus. Does the board wish for this equipment to be read into the record?
Is he running late, Bill?
I believe he's running late. I had a phone message and I couldn't answer it. I'm here for the policies and procedures. In case you have
All right.
questions on
Why don't we do that first, so the
those. I
chief
believe
can...
he is on his way.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that on hold and move on to the Wareham Police Department policies and procedures.
There we go. Keep it coming up. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Mr. Philman,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
You had a number of policies and procedures, which we received a couple weeks ago. I unfortunately left that piece of my packet on my kitchen counter as I ran out the door, so.
Basically, I'm just here to, if you had any questions on any of them,
No, sir. Well written.
Mr. Slavin, did you have any questions?
No, I went through them all. I didn't see anything that stuck with
I would like to just to add.
Just hang on one second.
Sure.
Mrs. Bagley?
No, I thought they were very well written, Mr. Holmes. Thank you for asking.
No, I didn't have any questions,
Okay,
thank you.
Officer Philman, any commentary?
I would just like to add that when we were accredited, the accreditation process didn't stop with the awarding of the plaque.
By the way, did you see the plaque?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. I hadn't seen that. Very good.
Mrs. Begley identified that location. It's not up there with a thumbtack, is it?
Yeah, I hope not.
Excellent. But there's always ongoing legislation, et cetera, that applies to the police department and the law enforcement community. So this is in keeping with the latest standards. So again, it's just it's an ongoing process.
How many more, do you mind, Mr. Holmes? How many more policies and procedures? I mean, then it's going to be ongoing for review. I understand the ones that you've already written, but how many more do you anticipate?
We don't. It's as they come.
Yes.
Really. As far as accreditation and certification goes for the department, those have all been completed and approved, and you can't really give a timetable. Mm-hmm. It's as the new legislation happens. For instance, on the bulletproof vest policy, the Department of Justice, their statistics showed that there was a 37% increase in officer deaths in 2010. In the Department of Justice is the agency that provides bulletproof vests. It's on a grant program. So during all these studies, they promulgated the wearing of the vest, and that was the reason for the policy. In order to get the grants, basically we had to tighten up our policy and make sure that everybody wears them, basically.
As you know, we've kind of set a goal that by in the summer, early fall, to have all of our Board of Selectmen, liquor, sewer treatment plant policies all up to date. I think last night we just talked about the police a little bit as well. And so, to your knowledge, all policies that you have at least been gone through since we started the accreditation process, correct?
All of the police department's
All
policies,
police.
yes.
So
Yes.
they're
Ours
all
are,
within-
ours are completed, yes.
Yeah, they're all within a year or so, or
Right.
13 months. Okay,
Yes.
good. Right. That's what we're trying to do. Okay.
Do we need to vote on those
Yep. Please.
individually or as a whole?
You can, well, it's only 4 of them. So
All right, let's do them
read the
separately.
titles and that would be
Yep.
fine.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the board approve the Wareham Police Department policy regarding body armor.
Second.
I have a motion made and second by Mrs. Bagley. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 400.
I move that we approve the Wareham Police Department policy titled Eyewitness Identification.
Second.
I have a motion made and second by Mrs. Bagley. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
I move to approve the Wareham Police Department policy titled Domestic Violence.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded by Mrs. Bagley. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
I move that we approve the policy, the Wareham Police Department policy titled Domestic Violence Involving Police Officers.
Second.
A motion made and seconded by Mrs. Bagley. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay.
Thank you, Officer Phil.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And keep up the good work, please. You're doing a great job.
Mr. Chair, since we do not have the Chief of Police here yet, we can move on to the consent agenda. We have no bills or documents to approve.
We have,
Yes.
you're not in last night's packet, eh?
Oh.
There you go.
All right, I'm sorry. We have one invoice dated April 20th from Blattman, Brabowski, and Mead, LLC, Attorneys at Law, invoice number 7598, in the amount of $15,000. I move that we approve payment for that invoice.
I have a motion made to approve the bill.
Second.
Second. Mrs. Bagley? Second by Mrs. Bagley. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
I'm gonna
400.
abstain.
The April... What?
I had a question on a bill that came up a couple of weeks back for
Attorney Tallerman?
Attorney Whitney. $2,300.
Yes.
I got an email that said that wasn't paid. I don't know that we. That was the night in question when we were.
That's the...
Andrews was here, and we went. I went into this diatribe about committees using attorneys.
Mhm.
It was like $2,300, and actually, Mr. Andrews had requested him to do that work. Still unpaid, I think.
Can we ask
Could we look into that,
Mr. Foster to update the board on that and get it on a future agenda for
This was on the. This was in regards to the
Beach Street?
Street matter.
Yep.
I
Mr.
believe,
Slavin?
I believe we got a copy of that a week or so ago. I think it's about $3,100 total.
It's over.
Yeah, it was around.
There's 2 pieces to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Okay.
The approval of the April 3rd Selectmen meeting minutes, I was absent on that evening, so we'll need a motion from Mrs. Begley.
Yeah, apparently so, huh? I move that we accept the April 3rd, 2012 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes as written.
I second that out of necessity. I have a motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
202.
Mr. Chair, moving on, we have the licenses and permits, an application for change of manager from Chili's.
Is there someone here from Chili's? Sir? Oh, that's your husband. There's no one here.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
would you like to reschedule this matter, or should we go forward with it? It's a change in manager.
Well, we usually have somebody come in, but if everything's in order, it's up to the board.
Did we,
Did you read the email? It says,
Oh, hang on.
the change of manager has been scheduled on the Board of Selectmen's agenda for May 1st, 2012 at 7 p.m.
Ah, well, that'll certainly put a fly in the ointment, won't it?
but we don't have a copy of the TIPS training, so could we put this off till next week if possible?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll give them a call and.
Yep.
Apology request Tuesday.
Mr.
Chief is here.
Foster, just one second. Is there a way to get a hold of these folks? Because they're thinking they need to be here at 7.
Is there a phone number on that?
Well, there's a
Yes.
phone number on but it's a Rhode Island area code, so I'm not sure we can reach out to them and try
It's the
and,
regional office.
yeah, or
I- I can give them a call.
okay,
There's a
Thank
number
you.
here on the inside of the app.
okay.
And before, I see that the chief is here, and I know we want to get there, but there's an email here again that says you invited, this is for a proponent of a special town meeting article that also says 7 p.m. on May 1st to Mr. Robertson. That's the second email.
Mr. Foster, is it possible between you and Mr. Sullivan that we can get in touch with these two people, make sure they don't come here at 7? Thank you. Mr. Chair, the chief has arrived.
Apologize for being late, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Chief. It's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
problem. We're on the list of surplus stuff.
Yes, I submitted a list to the board in keeping with policies to point out some equipment that was very old and been sitting in the garage for years. And it was my intention to bring this forward to you in advance so that you could vote on it. And lo and behold, since it was put off 1 week due to exigent circumstances, I checked with my staff and said, okay, I've got that meeting coming up, and it already has been disposed of.
Oh, there you go.
So I hope there was nothing there that was, there isn't, believe me, it's all junk, and
Well, I think
Probably a few
at
mice went with-
this point, that adds a whole bunch of new questions. I'm
They're
sure the
very
board members
efficient.
have. And maybe you can just take out your checkbook and
yeah. So
They're very efficient.
the only question I had, well, Mr. Slavin, did you have any questions on the list?
No, was everything not functioning, or the things were just old?
very, very old and non-functional and junk. I mean, when I say junk, that we have a bunch of other stuff that we have still, but this was stuff that was really gone, and we took the hard drives out and so forth. Ancient.
Well, if we have anything in the future, the Council on Aging can always use stuff.
Yeah, if there was anything that would, believe me, we could still use some of it too. If there was anything that was serviceable, we would have grabbed it. But this stuff here had no ability to be used at all. And we've had Matt look at it. We've had Steve Rogers look at it, and they both agreed. But I want to be upfront with you that it had been scheduled to be picked up, and then I never gave the word to my staff, and it was already picked up after the meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Bagley.
what I find amazing, because it's costly for the homeowner to dispose of this kind of equipment, and that you found someone to take it for free was great.
Yeah, it's a service, you know, and again, we told them up front too, we're taking all the hard drives out, so. And I apologize, and that won't happen again.
Ms. Winslow, did you have any question?
I do not have any questions. Thank you,
Yes,
Chief.
I was just going to ask along the lines of what Mr. Slavin was asking. You know, there's people who have nothing, and junk is better than nothing sometimes.
Yes, and we're watching for that, believe me, we're very cognizant of that.
Okay. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the surplus equipment for the Wareham Police Department. The equipment is listed on a letter dated March 27th to Chief Stanley from Stephen Rogers, IT, for the record, to approve it as surplus.
Motion made, second by
Second.
Mrs. Begley. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 400.
Thank you very much, and again, I
Hey,
apologize for
Chief,
that.
Thank
while you're
you.
here,
Yes.
one quick question before it comes up at the end of the meeting. We got the list of renewals for the committees
Yes.
for June, and you've got the street road commissioners, right?
Right, and I know that we took a vote we had like 2 or 3 meetings,
Okay.
and we took a vote, and the town planner is currently the chairman of the committee.
Okay.
And I know that he had one meeting scheduled, then he canceled it, and I haven't heard of another meeting yet.
All right. So you're no longer the chair of that. It's
No,
the
I'm not.
planner now.
No,
Right.
he is, and we met with the citizens at the police station, had a meeting, and I haven't heard anything since.
All right. I'll touch base with him.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, sewer business, I see Mr. Campina is here. I'm not sure if we...
Come on up.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. I asked Mr. Campino to come in tonight under sewer business to give us a personal update on the contract 2 betterment situation, and I also asked Mr. Gifford to be here as well, so that we have both gentlemen here that can help us answer questions. Good evening.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Before I got here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I was on the phone with Mike Judici to give us where we are as far as
He's here to give us an update on where
On-
we're at on setting the betterments for contract 2.
Miss,
Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay, Ellen. I'm sorry. Thank you.
so note for the record that Mr. Slavin has recused himself.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Mr. Campino?
So we're at the point of wrapping up the punch list, and the outstanding items are infrared in the road. And I suggested to them in my conversation with Mr. Gifford that maybe if they give us some type of warranty on the longevity of that may suffice, so he's going to proceed with that. Either we'll get something in writing to warranty it for 5 years, or we'll go ahead and infrared. So they're going to make that decision. We talked about, these are punch list items, we talked about Narrows Pump Station, and they have some suggestions from their engineers who reviewed it 2 weeks ago. We'll have those, actually they're probably on my email now. He said he'd email them to me, and we'll review that, and they hope to wrap that up fairly quickly. We talked about the inflow infiltration we have at Contract 2 Cremicet. Pumps are running. They're trying to quantify it. In any type of new system under TR16, there is an allowable amount of infiltration. We want to verify that that's correct, and if not, we have to find out the source of that infiltration. So we're wrapping that up. there's a couple other things we talked about, but we're pretty much close. Cherry Street, there were some issues on an indentation. They believe they'll get back to us from Geosio. They believe that they've done all they're going to do on that, so I need to vet that. We talked about the warranty issues, and we've agreed, and they'll put it in writing, that warranties will not begin until we actually physically accept the pump stations. So that was good to know. We noted that. And that's pretty much where we are, so we're hoping to wrap all those things up within the next week, so that'll mean that they can come to you and present this and then go about accepting the pump stations and then the project. The betterment side of it, we've still got some estimates I have in my brief, because I think maybe you may have copies, but there's some things that we have finalized and some things we just simply have not finalized. One of the questions we're having, and I'm trying to find the documentation, is on the ERA fund split. I've got some documents from contract one that suggested a 52-48% split by numbers. I can't verify that. I'm told it's 50-50. I don't really know, so I need a factual verification of that. So I believe that the Board of Selectmen would have those documents. I've asked Debbie for them, and she's looking for them. I don't have an exact number on the ERA funds.
Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you. The board voted to split the ERA funds 50-50.
Okay, and that's fine. I just have my document. It puts it at 7. I think the number is, it comes out to 52-48. It's 708 for contract 2 and 758. That's the numbers I have. And again, these are all estimates, so I want to vet these things to be absolutely sure. So that's why we're waiting on that. When I get the documentation that says this is what's been filed, this is actual, then I'll have that number.
Mr. Campina,
yes.
simply look at the meeting minutes of the night we set the betterment. The number for the ERA funds is right there.
Oh, then I'll get the betterment. I haven't got the betterment minutes, and so I'll request those.
This board was very clear that there would
Good.
be an even and equal distribution between those two contracts, which were the only two contracts that were eligible under the rules for ERA.
And that's
There's
been
no
suggested.
52%, 48, nothing like that went on.
And I'm looking at numbers again. This is why we're going to
Okay,
verify it.
I just want to
don't
be
wanna move
clear
forward.
before we put information out on TV and the public that it's a 50-50 split.
Good.
Whatever the number is, half and half. Half went to contract 1 and half's going to contract 2.
I understand.
Thank you.
And there's been a lot of talk, so I want to be sure, as you. Now, you have, I'll get the
I'm
minutes.
sure.
Okay, then we'll get the minutes, and I will definitely verify
you.
that number. Yeah, because, and my point is
That's
that's,
what I believe, too.
Yeah,
It was
it-
50-50.
It is
Right, yeah.
50-50.
and that's why, before I even say what the numbers are, I'm trying to vet all these things. That's
But
just
you
an
are
example
saying
of
the
one.
numbers, so I'm asking you not to. That's what the
Okay.
board voted. That's how it should have been done. If it
Okay.
wasn't done correctly, then that's a different issue for a different day.
Okay, and then
Thank
we
you.
can just get it, because I just tell you numbers I have, so I understand. Good. Number 2, again, we won't say any numbers, but we've got the police numbers are in, the actual contract numbers in, the engineering numbers are in. That's pretty much it. We've got the numbers, basic numbers for law firm. We're still waiting for appraisals. We're verifying easements. For the actual lot, when we took the lots, we had to pay some money, so there was an appraisal done, and I'm told by Mr. Deshays that those appraisals are not in, and that we can't even add those numbers. So he hired an appraisal firm. Yeah,
Mi-
go ahead, absolutely. I would love to help.
Mr. Chair, is it possible for us to go back to the meetings regarding this issue of the takings and for the easements and such? There was no discussion of appraisals. I have no recollection of this board ever approving a payment to anybody. We need to make sure, and Mr. Campina, I realize that I'm sounding harsh, but this is a lot of money.
Trust me, I agree.
And these are, there are people within this contract that are scared that they might lose their homes.
I agree
So
100%.
we've got to make sure that everything that you're looking at was in fact part of this contract and approved by this board. We're going to need to go back to 2010 and get copies of those the meeting minutes as we were approving those after we set the betterment for contract 1 and we were starting to approve. Mr. Geosio came in here and we talked about the movement of the 3 pump stations. We had a long conversation about the cost of moving the pump stations and what was included in that one price for moving the pump stations. And that may be where your appraisal fee is. We shouldn't be adding that in twice. So we've got to really take a good look at that. Now, if we can get this conversation, all that documentation to the board and then have the conversation, I'm just concerned that we're putting information out in the public that could be misconstrued, misunderstood.
Question, if I may, is even more direct. If appraisals were done and the appraiser was paid, correct? I mean,
Yes, according to Mr. DeShays, he
So
emailed me
there's
this
a-
information. I don't,
so there's a trail of warrants or vouchers
Absolutely.
that were paid.
correct.
We need to know what that number is.
And I'm waiting, that particular number on the appraisal, he said he will get it to me because he doesn't have that. He's getting the bill from the actual appraisers. He quoted J.K. Lyman. That's the company that he's waiting for a bill from to pay that. I have no idea. And I just, in other words,
Who is
when I
this
asked
again? Is
Mr.
it
Mark
Mr. Giudice
DeShays,
you're
no,
talking about?
Mr. DeShays, our attorney. So I've been asked to get numbers. I called Mr. DeShays and I asked for all his numbers for contract 2. He sent them to me, save the appraisal fees. He will send me the appraisal fees, and so when I get the appraisal fees, I'll give them to you. So I'm asking for these numbers. I'm not specifically
Mark,
asking, but
you understand the frustration?
I do,
Mr.
but
Gifford.
through you, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Winslow stated Gioso come in and give us a price. Gioso didn't have anything to do with the appraisals.
CDM, sorry.
Yeah, we're talking about appraisals
Yeah.
for the land taking for
Right.
pump stations.
Right,
Okay.
sorry, that was my error. It was Mike Giudice from CDM when we talked about taking the 3 pump stations. But, Mr. Chair, I have to state, I am absolutely flabbergasted that nowhere in Town Hall exists a file that contains all the invoices and costs associated with this contract. Nobody has been keeping track of this. It's gone on for years.
No, I wouldn't. I don't believe that to be the
Just
case, that no
gathering it.
one's keeping track of it. I'm sure that there's a record of this. Bills came in, checks were paid. Maybe it's between Giudice and Mark. Can you
Well, we have
can you put a full court press on this,
we have a
please?
spreadsheet in my
Yeah.
office of all the bills.
If we could
But
get
if
that
the appraisals
information.
haven't come in to us,
Haven't
or
come
the
in.
cost of the appraisals, it wouldn't be on that spreadsheet until we get the bill.
Well, but my question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Campina and Mr. Gifford is this. The appraisals, are we talking about the 3 pump stations that were moved for the appraisals?
That's correct.
Okay.
correct.
The
When
three
this
different
board
places.
approved the change order for that, we approved one number. If it's above that number, and those appraisals weren't included in that number, they were not approved as part of this contract.
Well, I believe, through you, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Campina is saying the appraisals were included, but the billing from Mr. Duche for the appraisal itself hasn't been submitted yet.
Okay, so can we get a
That's
copy?
the way I see it.
Can we get a copy of that change order, Mr. Foster? Sorry. A copy of the change order for the 3 pump stations on contract 2? Because that listed all the costs associated with that change order.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get that next. What else is on that list? Number 3.
That's pretty, we got the police waiting for easements.
Right.
We have the easements. We're waiting for appraisals, and police, we have police. Those are hard numbers. I'm waiting to verify, and as I was tonight, that there is a definitive 50-50 split, so we'll plug that back in.
Right.
Because we plugged it as an estimate 50-50, just trying to make sure it's correct. When we get all those numbers, we get the appraisal, we'll report those numbers to you, and then you can sit down and vet them. And if we get the actual minutes of what was approved and not approved, because I don't have that, then we can make sure what we're paying for is what we're authorized to pay for. I'm just gathering numbers.
So if my list is accurate, the 50-50 split is item number 1. And 2, you're just waiting now on appraisal fees.
Appraisal fees from J.K.
That's
Lyman.
it.
Yes, we just got the police in last night.
Right. I know you told me that. So that's all we're waiting on.
That's what we're waiting on at this moment, yes. And then we got to verify the betterment, the actual, and I did tonight, so that's done. And we'll get the
The
minutes and see.
actual what?
The actual split 50-50, because we had some discrepancy in the numbers. We had a bunch of numbers. So now we know for a fact it's 50-50.
There's a discrepancy where?
There was a discrepancy, Selectwoman Winslow clarified it tonight definitively that it's 50-50.
Where was the discrepancy? That's what I'm interested in. That's the question I'm asking. Was it in a record?
It was actually in a form from John Sanjanet that came to my office, and it was given to me as what the betterment was. And one of it, and when I did the numbers, I took the numbers and added them up to the 1.4. It came out to 48.52. So that's
Yeah, he had done 3 or 4 different
so
options.
that's
Right.
and this one is just like we had discrepancies we had talked about when I got the estimate for the cost of money was 350. It was a lot of money, and it turns out not to be correct. So I'm waiting for that actual cost of money, the hard.
So we're
cost
actually
of money.
waiting for one item.
I stand corrected. Cost of money.
Say it again.
Cost of money. What's it cost us to finance this? That's a number. I'm waiting for that number
2%.
also. Well, it's an actual hard number, and I don't know. I don't have
Anything
it.
above 2% has to be approved by this board, Mr.
Okay.
Campina.
So when I get the numbers,
It's
you can-
it's a 2% loan.
All right.
Okay.
So between the 3 of you, Mr. Foster, Mr. Gifford, when? By Tuesday? By the end of the
sure.
week?
I'll say Tuesday
We
as soon as
meet
I get
again.
it. But
We meet again on Tuesday.
okay,
Well, Mr.
we'll be here
Gifford,
Tuesday to be sure. But
Mr. Gifford has a spreadsheet, so if there's stuff that's missing, we should be able to clearly identify that. And Mr. Foster would have access to the meeting minutes and that type of stuff. It shouldn't be that difficult for him,
I
for the
supplied
office to get a hold of that.
that spreadsheet was supplied yesterday, so that's
Okay.
the spreadsheet we have. That's
And,
Fair enough.
and the only other issue is what's on that change order. So, thank you.
Mrs. Begley?
I got the
Give it to you.
yes,
When-
I've got the
when-
spreadsheet. I turned it in.
Did we have the workshop in March? Or
I
February?
want to say March 20. No.
No. When did we have
No.
the
You mean
most
the one at
recent
the,
workshop? No,
at
the
the
most
hall?
recent one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. March 28th.
Because, I mean, all of this, we were told it was 97% ready.
What was 97% ready?
That 97% that you for sure would have hard numbers for us and the citizens that have been begging for the number by mid-April. We're now into May. So I strongly urge you to have this for us next week, because this is really unfair. It's unfair. Now, the other things about the warranties, absolutely, I agree. I'm glad that you're fighting the fight that the warranty issues won't begin till we accept the project. That and as well it should be. How long are these warranties for?
They're 1 year and 5 years. 5 years on the grinder pumps, 1 year's on everything else with the pump station.
Well, we absolutely have got to get the numbers to these people. This is
But that's
Really?
that's the warranty and the completion is really outside the scope of the
It's two
question.
separate things,
Right,
absolutely.
okay.
The warranties,
What we're
all of
looking
that,
for
I
is-
appreciate the fact that you told us that the various punch list items continue. But those, if there's problems with the pump stations that they've installed, and that's on them. They need to fix it before we'll accept it, it has to be a functioning project.
I understand.
Mr. Chair,
But we need to know what is outstanding, if it's just the appraisal fees, and it's a 50-50 split, but unless this board voted otherwise, and it's maximum 2% loan, then I think a week is more than generous.
Sure. I agree. Yeah, and listen, and you picked up a lot of stuff over the last 10 days. I understand that, but we need to get this number done, and it's a priority, top priority, because people don't call me yelling about town hall maybe closing. They call me about what's my betterment. They just want to know. And we don't want to give them the
agree.
wrong number, and I've supported you, and I still support you 100% on this, but we got to get this last number done. Right? So that's fair enough.
I think
Anything else?
at this point, Chairman Holmes, I think that people, I heard them last night. They were saying, "Can you tell me that it won't be more than?"
Right.
So I am not. They're not even asking you for 37 cents. They're asking, "Well, just give me a ballpark. It will not be more than." That's what they've been asking, and I think that we're kind of been asking that as well. We get that it cannot be. I mean, if someone told me that my bill was going to be X and it came in under, I would be absolutely thrilled. But if we could tell these people that it's not more than, that's what they wanted. But now, I want to know the number by next week.
And we should have that with no problem. Right?
We've asked, when the appraisal comes in, we're asking for it, and if, what I'm hearing is I have to drive to the company and get it,
Well,
we'll
we have
get
the
it.
three top guys, town administrator, director of
We've
municipal
all asked,
maintenance,
Judas
and
has
you.
asked, we're waiting for it. We've
Between
all
the three of
asked.
you, you should be able to get an answer out of this guy.
Yeah, we will. We'll do the very
If
best
he's
we
been
can.
paid, you should have an answer. It shouldn't take him more than a few minutes to find it.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
through
okay.
you, the number is in the change order. He can't have charged us more than what was in the change order. He could only have charged us less.
And that's what he's trying to find out.
The change
Correct.
order I have is a one lump number. What's in that number, I don't know. So I'm waiting for him to tell me what that number is. And I don't know, I can't guess, or maybe if there's a way to extrapolate it out, I would, but you give me one number for the change order.
Okay.
I don't know what the actual appraisal is. And I know what you're saying, that we should just put that number and say this includes appraisal, engineering, whatever, and say this is the hard number. But there's categories, and I'm filling each category. Now I'm at the appraisal, and I'm looking for that number.
You got it. Okay, thank you. Now, anything else on that? Other sewer business?
Nope.
I have one.
Mhm.
The PDF that you sent on the abatements. Did you send me a PDF on abatements?
I'm
Last
not
week.
sure. We had two new abatements, and they're going to put them on one list. Whenever that's going to be, we'll take care of all the
Right.
abatements. I'm not sure which
'Cause
one
I
that
think
is.
We had looked at scheduling that for the 18th, I think, or the 17th.
Okay.
Is that enough time?
Yeah, we've turned them all in, and we've vetted them. I think there's going to be a total of 5. I think either 5 or 8. I think it was 5, and then 3 more came in.
We have
so-
them all. I think I have them all now from Shirley. So is
Yes.
there any reason to put that off till June that you can think of?
There's no reason I can think of. We're ready to
Okay.
move forward with them, and so you decide when they're going to be done, and we'll
She
go.
asked me if I wanted to move those out,
Okay.
and I figured I'd get the answer from you tonight.
I think when she talked to me, Mr. Chairman, I said to her that there's so much going on, check with the chair, because she said,
Yeah.
would you want, I said, it's not my call, but I would check with the chair, because there's a lot, town meeting, a lot going on, and the chair.
But you're ready to go with those.
Yes, we're ready to go. Yes, we're ready to go 2 weeks ago, but it was,
Anything else on the sewer business? And the last thing is the policies, which we talked about last night. You and Mrs. Begley are coordinating policies to.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to, if I might, I don't want to take any attention away from getting the information that we need to set this betterment, or to give the citizens some
Understood.
some attention.
I have a problem with that.
Anything else on the sewer business?
No, Mr. Chair, but can we move back up to licenses and permits? It does seem that
Well, yeah, let's finish with Mr. Campina first.
you said
Anything
anything
else?
else, I said no.
All right, Guy, thank you very much.
You're most
Thank you,
welcome.
gentlemen.
Thanks.
And we appreciate your work. Don't take it any other way.
It's not personal, it's business. Trust me.
I know.
Mr. Chair, back up to item number 7 under licenses and permits. Thanks to Mr. Foster and Mr. Sullivan, it appears that we've been able to notify our parties of the error, which we apologize for.
They
Typically,
didn't send the chief after you, did they? Because he just left here and you came in.
item A is
Come on
the application
please.
for change of manager from Chili's.
The chief leaves and they arrive.
There
That's
you go.
Pretty good, Mr. Foster. Oh,
Oh,
Robertson's?
I'm sorry. Okay.
that's
We
fine,
have
too. Come on
the discussion of special town meeting article submitted by Robertson's, which I believe we voted on last night, correct? Okay. Just wanted to be sure I'm not losing my...
Congratulations.
You ready for us?
Ready?
My name is Mike Cross, and I'm here representing Bayside Agricultural and the Beatons. Mr. Robertson is here to, as I understand it, you need a member of your community to make the motion. So, please. How would you like this handled?
I understand I'm going to make the motion. However, I don't seem to have it in front of me.
Well, no.
I'm misunderstanding this, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If you just want to give the Reader's Digest version of what the article is.
Yes, Bayside Agriculture will offer, at no charge to the town, should they select, a piece of land that will align Seth Toby Road with Toll Road. on Route 28.
Great.
Mr. Robertson's in the process of having a development project on his land, and they had originally hired some engineers and come up with an alignment for the Toby Road and Cranberry Highway intersection that wasn't optimal. And in speaking with Mr. Robertson, Bayside's Agricultural owns the property that's across Toby Road from the Robertson site, and we realized that it would really behoove both of us to donate a portion of the Bayside land so that we could sort of line up Toby Road with Tow Road, make that better. And that was something that we were before the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they seem to think would be a good solution as well. But in order to make that traffic solution work, we also needed to have the town accept that portion of the Bayside property as a town road. So we wanted to come before you and let you know what we were doing, what we were planning, sort of get your reaction to that, and find out anything more about the process that we need to know. We rushed to get on the special town meeting warrant so that we could achieve this in time for the construction, the project that's going on the Robertson's property. So we're hoping to sort of get squared away all the details and catch up with that process.
Okay, and we rushed last night to take a vote on this so that we would get it done in time for the printing of the town meeting.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
So we didn't vote on anything officially other than to show our support for your article.
Thank you so much.
Is there any questions, Mr. Slavin? No. Mrs. Begley?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you very much.
We're also curious who we should be talking with at the town in terms of making sure we have the right plans and the right process as we go through town meeting and working with the Board of Selectmen.
My suggestion, Mr. Chair, would be that you start with Mr. Foster and Mr. Sullivan, who work closely with the town moderator and the town attorney, town council, as they put together the motions and such. Mr. Foster, is that good with you? Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause it's coming up quick. Only what?
I don't know,
3
20
weeks?
more days.
Do you have any questions?
One, if I could, or rather one clarification. As I was looking at this afternoon, I just wanted to make it clear that, at least from my perspective, the effort is to give this property to you in whatever form you want it given to you, candidly. But that if the project did not take place, we would want it to revert back to Bayside Agricultural, rather than just being land that was out there being used for no purpose at all.
Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Winslow.
That you're going to need to make sure that you go over with town council to ensure that your motion is written correctly, because once this goes if it goes to town meeting as written, there's no.
I think it's clear in the warrant that we do anticipate that the use will be for the highway, and it will only be used for the highway purposes. And if it's an easement, I think that, or take whatever action is associated therewith. I understand. I have talked to town council a little bit about this. That there is, if you do draft the warrant in a flexible, broad manner, there is some room to amend it on the floor. So we'll certainly be happy to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Please do, because this is very generous, and we all appreciate it. We all expressed that last night. I would hate to see the poor wording in a warrant article.
I think that's right. No, we'll do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you
Thank
for
you very
rushing
much.
in.
Thank you so much. For
Thank you.
We have no idea.
Did Chili's, Mr. Foster, did you talk to Chili's?
No.
No. This
I
was
see a lot of people
Robertson's.
standing up. Chili's? No?
Nope.
No Chili's.
Okay. Moving down to town business number 9A, we have Stormwater Management Committee. I'm assuming that would be Mr. Gifford.
Mr. Gifford.
Again in the hot seat, twice in one night.
Good evening. Again. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't aware this was on the agenda, although I did receive a phone call, so I am here.
I did call you.
You did.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin.
My understanding is that the committee was put together but not really activated,
That's correct.
and that going through this, I know the planning board has the stormwater management, as does the Conservation Commission, as part of their working plan for the next year, because you have about another year before it all has to be implemented. So my comment was that I don't think we needed a committee per se. We have Director of Municipal Maintenance, Town Planner, Conservation Agent, Health Inspector, and Director of Inspectional Services. This is all part of their job, and therefore they can easily handle this on their own as a workshop, and just work it through the town administrator.
That's true. That there are a number of things that we're supposed to be doing. I mean, obviously, we file for our permit on a yearly basis, but we are supposed to be doing outreach to the community, which we do. I've had a bunch of flyers printed up in there in Conservation office, and they're in Harbor Master's office. We are supposed to be creating a couple of bylaws, which in this year's permitting, we've gone forward and said we'll have them implemented, or they'll go to town meeting. One is through Conservation, the other one is through the Board of Health. So things like that, what we have to do, we have to keep records of all the catch basins we clean. This is something new. We have to have all our streets swept at least once a year, which I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but
Yeah, I know.
they're
You're gonna have all of us
unfunded
up there with
mandates.
brooms, Mr. Gifford.
Yeah, we got plenty of volunteers,
You can
right?
have,
My mother can drive that street sweeper thing,
During our sign inventory program, we identified all of our catch basins in town. They're all mapped. Now we have to put the dots from one basin to the other, because we're going to have a plan of our catch basin system and our drainage system.
You're going to have to do something come next spring town meeting as far as an appropriation, because I believe this, in
Absolutely.
order to comply with this mandated non-funded program, some of the towns are talking about a
The
very
other
large
mandate
expense.
that they're looking at is we have all our outfall pipes mapped out, but now we're going to have them sampled. That's why I'd like to get Mr. Campina on board. In fact, I asked him to stay.
Guy, if you want to come up.
He has a lab. He has more manpower than I do, but he has the knowledge as far as doing the sampling of some of these outfall pipes and what has to be done in that aspect. And he's stepped forward and offered to give me a hand, and I really
Well, he's not
appreciate
doing anything for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
don't
Mrs.
even
Begley?
look for 'em.
Would that be correct?
We just remanded him to his room until he comes out with his number.
Questions or comments, Mrs. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
I'm sorry. Wait.
Oh.
Were you done, Mr. Begley?
I think the only thing we had left is I made notes about having to do a couple bylaws, which I thought was going to happen. And I basically had the town planner working on that to present through the planning board, since they are for town meeting, they are the board that normally brings through zoning bylaws.
Well, the other comment, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Slavin, is instead of reinventing the wheel, the town of Plymouth and the town of Yarmouth have a great stormwater plan. It's on the website. I'm going to take a look at that, grab their bylaws, and, there's no sense reinventing the wheel here.
No, it's something we just did with the sign bylaw. We used Falmouth as a base.
Right,
It saved us probably 6 months.
Mrs. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Okay.
Mr. Gifford, it sounds like that there's a lot of mandates, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
And I know that. That's probably, is it DEP?
The EPA.
The EPA. So, and it sounds like you're reluctant for us to disband this committee, that there's a lot to be done, and it would be great to have all these people in the same room working on all of this and being able to kind of delegate kind of the responsibilities. Other than, if I hear you correctly, you would like the board to not only continue the committee, and hopefully you'll convene a meeting in the next month or so, but would you like us, this board, to vote to have the director of the water, to have Guy?
Yes.
So you'd like to have this committee as it stands with you, inspectional services, harbor master, board of health, and the two citizens, one citizen at large, and Concom, with the addition of Guy Campina to continue.
That's fine with me.
That would be ideal- the ideal situation
I've talked
for
to other
you.
communities, and some of their committees only have 2 or 3 people on it.
But this way, I mean, it's just, this seems to be a lot to do, and if the more you can
Well,
kind of
that's
spread it out.
This is up to the purview of the board.
Mrs. Winslow? comments?
Well, my first question is this a committee created through a town meeting article, or was this committee created by the Board of Selectmen?
It was created by the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Select-
When's the last time they met, Mr. Gifford?
Never.
I don't remember. In fact, I wasn't even aware of the fact that the committee was created until I asked one day. So. And found out my name was on it. That's
Well, go ahead.
I mean, I'm kind of at a loss. I understand the mandates and things like that, but what's the purpose of having a committee that is made up largely of town employees who can schedule a meeting amongst themselves anytime they want to?
it is day-to-day operations. I mean,
It is. And if we, you are correct, Plymouth has an amazing stormwater management program, so does Falmouth, so do some other communities on the Cape. Most of the work is largely done in terms of that. So I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on the necessity for this committee, Mr. Gifford.
okay, that's
Yeah, and my comment was that this seems to me like it's duties of the individuals who are on this list, which fall under the purview of the town administrator, to manage his department heads and people who. This seems like job duties of these various department heads. So I have an outside committee. You don't need a committee to do your job. I mean, that's the way I looked at it. Unless you disagree with that.
no, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, we know what our responsibilities are.
And it's just a matter of getting it done. And I think that as a policy, the board, we're in I'll say it again, we're in the process of reviewing our policies, and I think that under the board policies that this is probably going to be one of them. And those will be the policy for the town administrator to follow. And I think you folks should be doing this every day. It's part of your job.
Mr. Holmes, in the interest of transparency, et cetera, I mean, this would make it a public meeting, and the public would feel free to attend such a meeting. Do you also have to write an annual stormwater report to the EPA?
Excuse me?
Do you have to write an annual stormwater report?
Yes, we do. We just filed a report like 2-3 weeks ago.
So the annual report just came from your office, or you consulted with these other members, or these other
It came from my
heads?
office.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was generated through Beta Engineering. They do our reporting. We give them the information as to what's been done during the year.
And that's a public record, and anybody can have access to that.
Certainly.
Yeah, and that's my point.
I
Oh.
just,
We-
my
we-
reluctance is that I understand what you're saying. I absolutely understand that you're saying it's day to day, that these are all department heads and everybody should be doing their job anyway. But again, I'm reluctant just, kind of seeing this for the first time to disband this committee that's not really met. I'd like to see it meet. And I also would like, we have Mr. Pasevich on this who's on clean water. So he would be taken out of the equation and clearly has expressed interest in being part of that committee.
The committee
So-
hasn't met.
Well,
The committee
that's-
hasn't done anything, and yet they still got the report out on its day-to-day task.
But if they had a designated chair, then they could meet at the direction of this board.
I'll make a
Mr.
motion to
Blake?
sunset the committee.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion made to sunset the Board of Selectmen appointed committee and seconded by Mrs. Winslow on discussion. Anything?
Well, the only thing that I would say is that I do think it is important that as the department heads go about doing their job and working on these tasks, that they do invite feedback from the community. Because I do think that it is important that we don't work in a vacuum. The decisions that are made every day in Town Hall affect 22,000 year-round residents and close to 50,000 summer residents. So I would strongly encourage that. However, and as much as I understand Mrs. Begley's point, I think having a committee like this becomes a deterrent to them getting their job done, because there could be potential open meeting law violations if they're not posting their meetings when they're having these discussions, and we can't interfere with their ability to get this done in the course of their jobs. This is a day-to-day issue.
I hadn't thought of that aspect.
Well, I'm still concerned about going backwards on transparency. How are people, I mean, if they were to meet, if the department heads were to meet to, say, start to develop bylaws, which you need to do, bylaws for the stormwater. I mean, there's a huge issue with stormwater right on Swift's Beach, since we know that there's a stormwater drain that goes directly into the sewer. So these are things that people want to be aware of and be able to be part of the process. And my concern is this, that they won't be part of the process, that we're going to move backwards on transparency.
Well, Mr. Chair, through you to Mrs. Begley, I agree that these issues need to be as public as possible. But we can address that simply by directing the town administrator to ensure that as they go about these creations, that they hold public meetings and public hearings so that the public does have an opportunity. But what we don't want is that because you have a number of department heads who through the course of a day regularly work together on this very issue, every time we have 3 of them together in a room trying to resolve an issue like this, we have a potential open meeting law violation because we formed a committee and there's no posted meeting. So the way I see it is, well, I understand your concern and I think we need to address it and make it very clear to the town administrator so that he can make it clear to his department heads what our expectation is, where by having this committee, in a sense, we're deterring their ability to get their day-to-day job done.
Make a comment, please. The bylaws, if they're written, they go to the planning board. The planning board will then have public hearings. They can't bring forth anything at town meeting without a public hearing. So they'll take care of that issue. What's happening here is that the different department heads are following a procedure that's been laid out for the mandate. They don't have any flexibility. They have a set mandate the government has set. The bylaws will have to be done in order to comply so the town can do it, and that does go through public hearing process. So I think it's all covered.
Okay. Anything else from the board? We have a motion made and seconded by Mrs. Winslow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
All abstained? 3-1-0. Thank you guys very much for coming
Thank you,
and
gentlemen.
taking your time.
We'll see you in about half an hour.
About a half hour.
If we could go back, this is real important, and we need to take care of this evening. Go back to last night for a moment. I told you I'd report back today. I had a conversation with Rich Bowen. This is in regards to the meeting on steel workers. I think everybody got an email this afternoon from John or Rich, right? Did everybody have a chance to read that? And this is very early on in the process. Rich does suggest that given the situation, and the other gentleman's name is Bob
Garrett.
Garrett, right. He's our representative in these matters. And he's suggesting that 1 or 2 members of the board attend these 2 meetings. The first one, and I'm trying to get a delay on this, first of all, let me just say that.
Trying to do what?
I'm trying to get them to postpone the first one. Because the first one is on Wednesday, May the 9th. So we only heard about this yesterday, which gives us pretty much less than a week to get all the information we need to go and sit and listen to this. The second one, okay, so the first meeting is right now is on Wednesday, May the 9th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Town Hall. The second meeting is on Thursday, May the 17th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and that's also in Town Hall. Thanks, John, for getting me that so quickly. And they are suggesting that we have 1 member of the board or 2 members of the board attend to get the information. At this point, those members cannot and should not agree to anything. Just get the information and bring it back to the whole board, obviously in executive session, so we can discuss it. It's kind of a fluid process at this point, so I'm still trying to get answers as to the best way to move forward. But they are recommending that if the meeting is held on Wednesday, that we send 1 or 2 representatives from the board.
May I ask a question?
Mrs. Begley.
Is the member of the board just to be there as a presence, or do they actively participate in any of the contract negotiations and discussions?
There were two comments made. One was that they would be there, and I'm just using an example. If they said, we want 6 clocks in our office, right? Then that person does not have the power to say, yeah, you can have 6 clocks in your office.
Or you can't have 6 clocks.
Or you cannot have 6 clocks in your office. So they would bring that information back here to the board. The second opinion was that prior to the meeting, that we have Mr. Garrett come in with Mr. Bowen, because I'm not comfortable without our counsel being present, and have an executive session.
Mr. Garrett is our counsel.
Well, yeah, but I'd like to have the board's town council listening in on this, because in the end, he's the one who gives us that advice. And have him come in executive session and meet with the 4 or 5 of us and tell us exactly where they're at, what
As a board.
has been. Oh, absolutely, yeah, the 5 of us. And then as a board, we could go down this menu list and say, the board would agree to 9 clocks. We would agree to 2 coffee pots. We would agree to 3 chairs. And then those representatives could go to the meeting, and if they come in and they say, I want 22 clocks, that person has the authority to say, the Board of Selectmen has discussed this, and they're only willing to give you 3 clocks. So we have a couple of alternatives there.
You're answering my question, because my question...
I'm trying hard.
Right. My question was this. This was my concern, because it is day-to-day. I'm very concerned about that section of the charter, but I understand the present circumstances. Hear me out.
Right.
I understand the present circumstances. My concern was that a member or 2 members of this board would be active participants in the contract negotiations outside of the scope of the board. Do you understand what I'm saying?
They would be representing the board.
At the direction of the board.
At the direction of the board.
Not making, statements or negotiations and then coming back to the board.
Correct. That's my understanding as well.
It would come from the board first. So if there was a question, say about...
clocks, we can stick to clocks.
We'll stick to clocks or TVs or
right.
CDs. If there was a question, and even if this member thought, well, that's kind of an easy enough thing to answer, they're unable to do so because they don't have the approval of this board.
That's correct. That's my understanding from the last conversation I had with Rich around 4 o'clock.
So it's more or less to be a presence.
That's correct. And we can send that person or persons with 0 information, or we can send them with some information. It's preferred to have a meeting ahead of time. That was the preferred process, to have an executive session with Mr. Garrett, the members of the Board of Selectmen, to go through what's been, because we have no idea what's even been put out there. I don't, anyway.
Right.
And to go through what's been offered in the past and what the issues are and then have the board have a discussion about it. Obviously, we're at a bit of a disadvantage because our 2 members who could tell us, hey, 22 clocks is fine, are both members of, or potential members of that union.
I understand.
So for us to even decide that we want to give you 22 clocks, I mean, we have to have some budget counseling to make sure that we can afford 22 clocks in the budget, right?
Well, absolutely.
So,
I agree, Mr. Holmes. I think that we need to be aware of the parameters, for sure.
And I was also concerned, as you are, about the day-to-day issue. The day-to-day issue is protected for this board because of the special circumstance of the town administrator and the financial analysts and all those folks that are there on a day-to-day basis are potential members of the other side of the negotiations. So we are covered to have a member or two go. There was recommended two,
I understand.
so that it would not be perceived as one of us going there and negotiating with the union.
I understand.
Okay. Mrs.
Well-
Winslow? Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish. I think Mrs. Winslow's had her hand up.
Well, I wanted to explain too, for the benefit of everybody on the board, that a mediation session is not a negotiation. It's not an across the table, they're on one side, you're on the other, having a conversation. The parties are placed in two separate rooms, and the mediator goes between the two parties. So the mediator comes in to Mrs.
I know
Begley
what the
and
contract negotiations are, Mrs. Winslow.
No,
but
this
certainly
isn't-
explain to, or the mediation, certainly explain to the viewing audience.
but this is not, this process is at a different stage now. And the other piece of this, and why it's very important that we make every attempt to keep this first mediation session, is that these mediators are extremely busy. They're difficult to get dates with. We have a placeholder on the special town meeting warrant. We advertise the town accountant's position at $90,000 to $95,000. However, if you look at the current salary scale, there's no way to pay that amount of money until we negotiate this contract.
I understand.
So
Well, we're not negotiating the contract right now.
No,
That's
but
why
what-
I use
until-
clocks and not anything specific
right.
that could be discussed during that meeting. So if you could
That's
stick
right.
to clocks, please.
Yes.
I'm trying to stick to clocks, but
Well-
there's a greater sense of urgency in that if this process is not complete by special town meeting, we will not be able to bring this contract forward absent paying for another special town meeting until the fall, meaning that we could potentially delay the hiring of a town accountant until the fall.
Oh, dear. Wish you-
Well, so the question at this point is the board's feelings on, one, it was recommended that two people from the board attend the meeting. And of course, there's more information. Maybe we'll have more from Rich tonight. And if we need to schedule, some kind of an emergency meeting over the next couple of days so we can, this is an important issue that was thrown in our lap yesterday. So I'm trying to get as much information as I can and then get the board to make a decision. But there's still information coming in. It's very difficult for us to make that decision. So
Well,
we
Mr.
may have to get together here again in the next couple of days for this one issue,
Mr.
once we have all the answers. Mrs. Bagley?
What are you looking from the board for tonight?
I'm looking for a motion that identifies the number and bodies of the board members, and again, it was suggested that we have two, to attend these meetings. That's what I'm looking for at this point.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll move that two selectmen attend the mediation sessions between the town of Wareham and the Steelworkers unit.
Okay, I have a motion for two members to attend the meeting.
Second.
We can't have three, so
Second for
I have a
discussion.
second by Mrs. Beck.
Yeah, can't have three.
No.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Anything else on that question, on the number of attendees? All in favor?
Wait a minute, I
Oh.
had said second for discussion, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I
didn't
know
hear.
that we're going to, and I think it's wise to have two,
Okay.
as opposed to one, particularly if one is unable to attend, because this has been an ongoing issue. And I imagine that the next motion is going to be who those people are.
That's
And
correct.
that was going to be part of my discussion. So I think that given Mrs. Winslow's experience, that I would strongly urge this board to consider her to be one of those people. And I would just like to express my interest in being the second person.
Can we do?
And then we can vote.
Can we do the number
Sure.
first? Okay. Anything else on the number? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain, 400. 2 members, okay. On the 2 members. If I could get a vote on that, a motion on that.
I move that the 2 members of the board that will attend these sessions would be Selectman Winslow and Selectman Begley.
I have a motion for Mrs. Begley and Mrs. Winslow. Have you checked your calendars? I gave you the times and dates. Okay. You need a second? I have a second?
A second for discussion.
Second by Mr. Slavin. Discussion.
Is it inappropriate to hold off on the second person until the final selectman is in place, since he is a lawyer? It may be a benefit as a negotiator.
Well, we can always do something with that. The meeting is Wednesday, so if he's, I have to at least submit the names to Mr. Garrett.
For the 9th and
If we
the
change
17th.
that, if we change it before next week, that's fine, but I need to get him the information today. Okay.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Begley, for your vote of confidence.
Well, we haven't voted on it yet. Anything else on the discussion?
Well, no, I was referring to her earlier comment.
Well, I'll have a bit on the discussion. I know we're running late. One of my concerns with Mrs. Winslow, because I am a consultant and I know how experts get, and one of my concerns is that she is so knowledgeable about it. And we need to, and I'm always very cautious. As you know, I'm always saying, be careful, be careful, be careful. And I really want to make sure that I note to her that I want you to be really careful here, because this isn't your old job. This is, you're representing the town of Wareham. And I know that you'll be, I'm not saying anything about being professional or anything else. I'm just saying that how things are done in other towns, you represent this board. And I'm just concerned sometimes when we know too much, it can be a bad thing too. But I believe that the 2 members we just selected will do an excellent job for us. Now, of course, it's fluid, so again, I want to reserve the right to call some kind of an executive or emergency meeting if we need to before Wednesday, okay? Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chair.
Abstain? 400. And I'll
If-
get that information off to Rich tonight, and he can get it to Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Chair, if it would please the board, I would appreciate if we could get that executive session scheduled perhaps for Monday, and request Mr. Garrett get both Mrs. Begley, myself, Mr. Slavin, and yourself a copy of the what's out there, so that we have time to review it before Monday.
They may actually already be working on that.
Okay, great. But can we get
I
a meeting?
obviously haven't looked at my emails in the last hour or so, and Rich should have more information for us this evening.
Okay. But can we get a meeting scheduled so that we know that we can make that Wednesday meeting?
He is checking on those dates and times when they're available, and I
Okay.
should get that when I see him. And as soon as I do, I'll have Shirley. I'll send you each an email to make sure you're available, and then we'll schedule it.
Just FYI, well, 3 things. I was going to say 2 things. 3 things.
FYI.
I'm unavailable on Fridays unless it's after 7 p.m.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay.
That's the only day.
No
that I-
Friday.
No
Okay.
Fridays ever.
All right.
And
You got anything, Alan, the next couple of days that's pressing? Kara?
he has no life. That's
So
what he says
just
all
keep
the
it
time.
away from Friday.
So 2 things. Okay. Second thing, can we put on the next agenda, town administrator?
Oh, town administrator's report. Yes,
On
ma'am.
the next agenda, and I'm saying the next agenda, Mr. Holmes, because I'm going to tell you that it's 6:45.
Motion
There's
to
no clock
adjourn?
there. Yes, TA report. John, you comfortable with that? Getting us something?
Oh,
At
and
least
also,
for the-
I also meant that the posting the job, please.
Oh. Okay.
So TA report and posting the position.
I didn't receive that, just so you know, I didn't receive any emails in terms of the description that was sent out, in terms of changing anything or
Well, if we have it on the
anything.
agenda, Mr. Holmes, then we can freely discuss it.
Well,
I'm
we had it on the
uncomfortable-
agenda already.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do believe that we were awaiting the 5th member. It's because,
You will be here by next week, won't you? Maybe? You don't know.
All
All
right,
right.
motion to
We
adjourn.
have a motion to adjourn.
second,
Mr. Slavin? Hang on one second.
I was just going to bring up one thing. I had sent off a thing about, Board of Selectmen days for a future discussion.
You did, and I have that coming up on the agenda.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
Remember to candy.
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Oh, yes, all in favor? 400, thank you. Apparently, sorry.